Hey, communication scholars, this is Professor Denham. I'm your professor for HCOM 100. I teach two sections of HCOM 100. One is section 58, and the other is section 17. So section 58, we are meeting in person. Section 17, it's completely online. The reason why I'm making one video for both classes is because it's the same content, the same information, so to speak. Um, so and as you know, if you're an in-person class, if you're taking an in-person class, the first 2 weeks of our semester are going to be online. So it might sound a little confusing, but this is how I'm doing it. So essentially, what I'm going to be doing is teaching both courses completely asynchronously in the exact same way for the first 2 weeks. And then assuming that we go back to class in person on Monday, February 7th, then section 58, my in-person class, that's Monday, Wednesday from 8:30 to 9:45 in College Park 130. We'll resume classes in person on, like I said, starting Monday, February 7th at 8:30 in the morning. So anyways, I'm going to be kind of like waffling back and forth between those two different things. But overall, everything's essentially the same. The same textbook, the same assignments, the same lectures, the same everything. So bear with me. Keep that in mind. So it's the same, everything's the same except for the modality. The modality is a little bit different. One being completely asynchronous online for the first 2 weeks versus my online class, section 17. It's asynchronous for the entire semester. Nevertheless, I'll keep you up to date. I'll keep you up to date with any kind of changes that we get. Whatever's going on over the next few weeks, we'll see. Nothing is so constant as change. So my name is Jonathan Denham, Professor Denham. I've been teaching the college level. I'm on my 17th year, so I've been teaching 16 years, starting my 17th year right now. And you'll learn more about me throughout the semester from videos that I make and whatnot, assignments that I make. But anyways, I highly recommend that you have your course schedule out in front of you, as well as your the syllabus. So those are available on our Canvas page. I recommend printing those out. I like having physical, tangible copies of things when I'm listening to something. So I recommend print them out, take notes on them, and if you don't print them out, at least be looking at them and referencing them as you're listening to the video. The other thing I recommend for a lot of videos, I'll be making lots of videos for our class, whether we're in person or online. I just make lots of videos, and I'll either post them to my YouTube channel, which is where this is. And the other thing that I do is I use the Canvas message option where I'll send a Canvas message, but I record, like you saw, was it this morning? Yeah, this morning. Today's Monday, the 24th. It's been a crazy semester, right? Crazy year, crazy couple years. So I'll just use the Canvas feature and I'll do an audio message, or sometimes I do audio video message, but nevertheless, I use a lot of videos and recordings and whatnot because I think, from what I've been told from a lot of students, it's really helpful. So it's easier to kind of make sense out of stuff instead of like typing really long emails. I just do an audio message or video message. So anyways, you'll have the messages either through YouTube or just directly through the Canvas message system feature app. Okay, so as you see in the course schedule, week one, we are just look at the wrong one. Week one, we're in the layout of the course schedule. I have like week one, and then the dates are Monday through Sunday. Basically, it's covering that week of the calendar. It's not necessarily an academic date week, but it's basically like Monday through Sunday, week one, Monday through Sunday, week two, just so you have a frame of reference for understanding like which week we are in the semester. So we're in week one, page 24th. The 30th is a Sunday. Week two is Monday the 31st through February 6th, and so on and so forth. You can figure that out. So for the first week, basically, you'll want to read through the syllabus, browse the Canvas page, get your course textbook, and we'll be covering chapter one. So make sure you read chapter one and then listen to the lecture that's available on Canvas for chapter one. I have a lecture along with a PowerPoint. So what I'll do for our class, for an online asynchronous class, I provide you with a PowerPoint lecture along with a video that complements the PowerPoint lecture. So you don't, like within the video itself, you don't see any PowerPoint slides. You just see me talking. And then the idea is that you have the PowerPoint out in front of you, following along, taking notes, and of course having your textbook open, following along, taking notes. However it is that works best for you when it comes to studying. Um, Essentially what I'm trying to do is simulate the classroom experience where you're looking at me, like listening to me, and then also looking at a PowerPoint and then taking notes in whichever way is useful to you. One thing I recommend oftentimes is to change the playback speed in YouTube. If you're looking at a YouTube video and you go to the settings, it says playback speed. So click on settings, playback speed, and then you can increase the playback speed. Our brains are capable of processing information much more quickly than people typically talk. I typically talk a lot more quickly than most people, but nevertheless, you can still try playback speed at 1.5, 1.75. Basically, my advice is set the playback speed at a point where it's faster than normal. That way, you get through more material more quickly, but not so fast to the point where you can't understand the person talking, because then that would defeat the whole purpose. The purpose is to save time, but also have the same level of comprehension. You can always click pause, you can rewind, all that kind of stuff. But anyways, that's my advice. So that's what's going on for week 1. Get the textbook. I provide the first chapter for you on our Canvas page. It's not really a photocopied. I think what I did was I copied and pasted from my online format, my online version. I copied and pasted the first chapter, and then it's just in a PDF document. So if you don't yet have the textbook, order it right away. Acquire that as soon as you can. And in the meantime, I provided chapter 1 for you. Now, as you see in the course schedule, and as well as as you see in the syllabus, as well as any information that you would have looked at prior to the course syllabus, like going to the university library online or looking at your student portal, there's all kinds of information that tells you which textbook you need. And the textbook is called Real Communication: An Introduction by Dan O'Hare, Mary Wyman, Dorothy McMullen, Jason Tevin. This is the 4th edition. So the required textbook for our course is the 5th edition. The 5th edition is what the library has. The 5th edition of this textbook is what you're going to see on all kinds of correspondence that you might see as looking at your student portal. So the required edition is the 5th edition. Now, if you get the 4th edition, that's fine by me. For this particular textbook, the 4th edition and the 5th edition are extremely similar. The table of contents, the titles of each chapter are the same. Sometimes the caveat is if I say, hey, I'm fine with the 4th edition, if you want to get it, that's fine, but you might not be able to find it. So if you can find a 4th edition, great. Otherwise, get the 5th edition. 3rd edition, I don't know anything about the 3rd edition, so I would definitely say get the 5th required, or if you have access to a 4th, that's fine too. But nevertheless, the only difference you might see is if you hear me in a video reference a specific page number from the 4th edition and you have the 5th edition, it might be off. But nevertheless, if you've read the chapter, you're familiar with the content, you've taken notes. If you see a discrepancy in the page number, you can figure it out by looking at the content, looking at the index or whatever. So that's that. That's what's going on for week 1. And then next week, we're covering chapters 3 and 6, Perceiving Self and Others in Communication Culture. And then you have 2 assignments due in Canvas, the student profile and the TED Talk. Basically, all of your assignments in our course, all the assignments where you're like compiling work and doing stuff, will be done online, will be done on Canvas. If it's an in-person class, that's usually the case. If it's in our in-person class, once we meet in person, we'll do in-class activities. But for some of the major assignments, and even like informative speech topics, the speech bibliography, the application paper, all of those things are due on Canvas. All those things you'll submit to Canvas, whether we're in person or online. It's all going to be done on Canvas. Excuse me. And for the most part, I make everything due on Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So the deadline is the end of the week. Sunday night, 11:59 p.m., so on and so forth. That's the deadline. And so, okay, back to the syllabus. So the course description, read through all this stuff on your own. Course description, the oral communication, general education goals, the oral GE communication goals and additional course objectives. I'm not going to read through all this stuff. You can read through it all on your own. I highly, highly recommend you read through the entire syllabus very, very thoroughly, underline things, highlight things, circle things, etc. Everything in our core syllabus is there for a reason. I don't put anything there just because I felt like putting words in there. Everything in there is there for a reason. I recommend that you do that with all your syllabi, but especially for ours because I'm aware of everything that's in there. So make sure you read it. So basically, this is a course in communication. We're going to learn about human relationships, the nature of communicating, self-concept, self-esteem, verbal communication, non-verbal communication like body language, persuasion, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a hybrid course where we're talking about the human relationship stuff, human behavior, social psychology, if you will, along with public speaking. Public speaking, as you know, is most people's favorite course to take. Ha ha ha. Just kidding. So my goal for public speaking, the public speaking component of this is to demystify the whole notion of public speaking and to make you and sort of like to really manage the nervousness. So one of the things that a lot of students deal with, as you're aware, is public speaking anxiety. So I spend a lot of time talking about anxiety and public speaking anxiety and stage fright, all that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of taking like everything I've learned, everything I've observed and whatnot over the last about 17 years of teaching from students and speeches, giving speeches and talking about speeches. My goal is to make it manageable for you. Doesn't mean that you're not going to have stage fright, but my goal is to educate you on everything that's happening in your brain, in your body, and what you're doing with public speaking. All right. So the course requirements on the page 2 of the syllabus, course requirements, we're going to have lots of learning exercises. If we're in person, a lot of those will be in class. If we're online, they'll be online on Canvas. 3 speeches. You'll have an introductory speech, an informative speech, and a special occasion speech, 1 paper, and 2 exams. Read through all that other stuff on assessment. The final exam week is May 14th through May 20th. That's Saturday through Friday. So make sure you check your final exam schedule or just type yeah, your instructor should tell you which day your final exam is. I'll have the specific final exam day on our course schedule. If it's for our online class, the specific time slot that you'll be taking the exam online will be determined later. So I'll deal with that later. But that's the final exam window. Saturday through Friday, May 14th through May 20th. I use a plus-minus system, grading system. In most cases, it benefits students. And then here's a breakdown of how each assignment is weighted. If you add that up, learning exercises 250 points, application paper 150 points, and so on and so forth. It's 1,000 points. It's a 1,000-point based class. It's a nice number. It's an arbitrary number. Our class could be worth 532 points. It's all relative, but I use a number like 1,000, and that way it's easy. If you're a numbers person, then you know that the introductory speech is 50 points. That's 5% of the course grade. So some teachers, I know I've had teachers who make their entire class worth 7 points, and then certain assignments are worth 1/3 of a point or 2 1/3 points or something like that. And in my opinion, that's extremely confusing. I hope that this is not confusing to you. I try to make things very practical and intuitive and whatnot. I say here that the grade ranges might change based on the total distribution of points for all the students. Essentially, at the end of the semester, I calculate all students' grades and how many points they have, and then I rank them from highest to lowest. And then I see, like, let's say if the A range is, well, the A range is 900 to 1,000, right? The B range is 800 to 899. The C range is 700 to 799, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the semester, I rank all the students' grades, and I look at how they're distributed. And if I see that there's, like, let's say 903, right? 903, 902, 902, 901, 900, 899, 898, and then 880. So that's a clean break from 898 to 880 is a clean break. 900 to 899 to 898 is not a clean break. So let's just say you got 899 points or 898 points. I would still include that in the A range, in the A minus range, instead of the B range or the B plus range. If that doesn't make sense, that's okay. Just know that it's my philosophy. It's my own approach to modifying the way that grades work. in light of how all my students do as a whole. In every semester, if a student's grade changes, it's for the better. I would never lower your grade for any reason. But anyways, if you have any questions about that, let me know. When you're corresponding with me, please make sure that you use proper email etiquette. Identify yourself and which class you're in, including the section number. I teach two courses with the same section. I mean, I teach two of the same courses, two different sections. I've had semesters where I've taught four sections of, let's say, COM 100. So if you're emailing me and you don't tell me which section you're in, then all I know is you're one of my four. You're in one of my four classes, which means that you're one out of 100, 130 students. And so if it's a kind of a question where I'm going to have to go, if you ask me a question, I need to look up information about you. If you don't identify the section number, then that might mean that I have to like look at every single section number. I go on Canvas, I click one section, no, that's not your class. Another section, no, that's not your class, and so on and so forth. So in some cases, I might not respond to your email. So I'm not being passive aggressive. I'm being very direct and letting you know, based upon the kind of email that you send me. If you're asking for specific information and it's going to make me do a bunch of extra legwork, I might just delete the email. But if you make it easy for me, then I won't. Not just easy, but proper and the very bare minimum. I address the professor, identify yourself and your course. Now, if let's say you and I like are in a class and you and I talk like a couple days a week, you're one of those students where we always talk and whatnot, and it's the end of the semester. You don't need to do that, but just use common sense. And a lot of questions that you might have about our class, general questions, might just be answered by looking at the syllabus, course schedule, or Canvas. But for specific questions about assignments and whatnot, or your grade, then that might not work out. Like I said, check your student email and Canvas all the time, at least once a day. I highly recommend that you check your email once a day, and check our Canvas page once a day. I've had students tell me in the past, like, oh yeah, I don't ever check my student email, and as a result, they like dropped the ball, or they didn't complete work, or they got an F on something or a 0 on something because they didn't know, because they didn't check. So make sure you check your email at least once a day, and check Canvas once a day for either. Usually, you get a notification. I don't fully understand all the nuances of Canvas, but you usually get a notification to your Canvas. I mean, usually you get a notification to your student email account when there's been changes on Canvas. To my knowledge, as a student with your Canvas account, you can set things up. You can set up. There's all kinds of different ways that you can modify the way that you receive the notifications in your settings. If you're not sure how to do that, ask a friend, ask the IT department, or just go on Google. Right? Just use Siri or whatever the different applications are for your phone, or just go online and say, type in changing settings in student Canvas page or something like that, student Canvas account. If you have if you have a little bit of internet, if you're a little bit internet savvy, then you should be able to figure it out. For attendance, attendance is only going to be relevant for my in-person class, so I'll address attendance once we are meeting in person. Hopefully that'll be on Monday, February 7th. So where it says attendance and class conduct for my in-person class, read through all this stuff, and then I'll talk about that in more detail once we start meeting in person in a couple of weeks. If you have a grade dispute, let's say you get something graded and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got that grade. I want to talk to the instructor about that. I'm more than happy to talk about it. It's not personal, it's just business. The way I look at it, like when I'm grading something of yours, I'm not grading it based on my relationship with you. I'm just looking at, a written document. I'm just like, okay, irrespective of who you are, of who did this work, I'm just grading this for what it is. So for me, it's not personal. There's zero emotions. There's absolutely no emotions whatsoever when it comes to grading. So if you want to talk about your grade, you were thinking you were going to get an A plus and you got a C plus, and you're just like, oh my gosh, why is that the case? I want to help you. That's my goal. My job is to teach you. My job is to educate you and to help you do the best that you possibly can do. So if you want to talk about your grade, then let's talk about it. Either in person during my office hours, which by the way, my office hours will be Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 to 11 in College Park 270. 275. College Park 275, Suite 10. So once you go into the door, when you open the door for College Park 275, you'll see a whole suite of offices, like cubicles and offices. So mine's Suite 10. Um, yeah, but if you want to talk about your grade, if you have a grade dispute, or if you have any questions about how you did on something, I'm more than happy to talk to you about that. Late work. Simply stated, please submit your work on time. So you're going to see deadlines, right? If the deadline is Sunday 11:59 p.m., that means anything submitted after that time is late. So I'll have late deadlines. I'll have a deadline for late work, which is going to be 72 hours after the initial deadline. And I explained that right there. So basically, if you turn in something after the deadline but before the next 24-hour period, you get a reduction of one full letter grade for each 24-hour period. So if something was 100 points and it's Sunday night, it's like getting close to 11:59 p.m. and you're thinking, there's no way that I'm gonna get this finished. Or if it's like 11 p.m. and you're thinking, this is gonna take me at least to do good work. It'll take me at least a few more hours. I'd say go to bed and then work on it the next day and make sure you submit it before Monday. You're better off taking that penalty, taking that deduction in points of 10 points, 10%, versus turning in really, really low quality, poor quality work and then maybe getting an F. So I've seen it before a lot where, let's say something's worth 100 points. I see a student, they're submitting it at 11:59 p.m. and I'm looking at the work and I'm like, I mean, this is just really low quality work. And if that's your decision, you can do that. I don't get mad at you if you do that. But for something that's 100 points, maybe you get 50 points or 40 points, or it's such low quality work that maybe all you get is like 5 or 10 points. That's your decision, right? Or you can say, you know what, this isn't done, so I'll just wait till tomorrow. I'll just work. I'll bust it out tomorrow or whatever, and then maybe you get really good work. Maybe you submit something that's A quality, like A level, A grade quality, and then maybe your grade is like a 95, right? A solid A, 95 out of 100. And then you get the penalty of minus 10 points, which is 85. It's still a B. 85 points, a lot better than 5 points. But ask questions if you have questions about that. Plagiarism, academic dishonesty. Don't cheat. Don't use anyone else's work. I have the UPS 300.021. That's University Policy Statement 300.021. I highly recommend that you read that. Our college has very strict guidelines on the nature of academic dishonesty, as well as all colleges. I've taught at 7 different colleges, community colleges, state universities, private colleges, and pretty much all colleges across the board have very strict standards when it comes to academic honesty, dishonesty, plagiarism, all that kind of stuff. Specifically, if you ever caught cheating, if you were suspected of plagiarism, what I would do, I would fill out some sort of a report, like a plagiarism report, submit it to the powers that be, and then if they found you, guilty, then they would apply a certain type of a sanction, maybe an F for the course, or worse yet, you lose your financial aid, or they suspend you, or you have to take a 1-year probation. There's all different types of possible sanctions. I highly recommend that you read through them. I'm not trying to scare you, but it's very, excuse me, it would behoove you to be aware of those things and to educate yourself on the way that our college handles that kind of stuff. I have some information on disability support services. So I have hyperlinks here. So I think if you're looking at this in a PDF, I think you can just left click on these hyperlinks and it should work. Or sometimes you might have to click Control and then left click on it. But nevertheless, I have some hyperlinks that will lead you to the right places. So if you have any issues whatsoever with disability support services, if you have a need for something, whether it's a learning thing or you're going through something really stressful in your life, whether it's right now or next week or sometime in the semester, something happens. Inevitably, that's what happens, right? Like I said, I've been teaching for 17 years. I've had thousands of college students. I've never taught a course where I didn't have at least one or a couple of students who, sometime during the semester something happens in their life, and then they're just it impedes their ability to perform at the level that they want to perform in my class or in college in general. That's where disability support services might come in for you, or maybe you need some help with just like figuring out how to manage, like, I don't know, something in your life. Reach out to them. Reach out to me, and if you want to talk to me about it, we can set up a Zoom meeting or meet in person or whatever. And then the sexual harassment policy, that's very important to read through. And then emergency information. I think that's about it. If you're hearing any background noise, that is my wife helping out with my son, who was on the ground at school today, who said he had a headache. So he's doing okay, but he really wanted his dog, so he's watching a movie, watching the dog. And my wife came home from work too, and I'm in the office doing this. But that's the nature of COVID, right? Pandemic and working from home. So I think that about covers it. Keep in mind the schedule is subject to change. The course schedule is subject to change, but for now, it's week one. It's January 24th. So at least for my in-person class for the first 2 weeks, I'm going to stick to that schedule. And then if we go back in person, then I might modify the schedule. But for my online class, section 17, in all likelihood, I'll pretty much stick to this. I might modify the schedule a little bit, but and I don't mean to sound negative or cynical at all, but I'm just prepared that there's going to be some sort of change, as is the nature, as is common with a lot of colleges in a semester. There's things that happen, but especially because of this, like the issue with pandemic and COVID and booster vaccines and mask wearing and all these different types of things that are happening. I don't know what to expect, but I will definitely communicate that to you. If there's any kind of a change with the course schedule or syllabus, I will communicate that to you. So, moving forward, there's I think that's about it. The only other thing I recommend is the way you approach reading. The last one today, which will take a couple minutes, is how you're going to read the textbook. So before reading the chapter, this is the way that I would read when I was in grad school. I was a college student for 12 years. So by the time I got to my PhD program, I had some people share with me the best way to read. So what I recommend to you is, like, if you're going to read, let's say, chapter one, whatever chapter you're going to read in a textbook, do a mental warm up, do an exercise. So what I recommend, read the conclusion first, and then the intro, and then any sort of like chapter preview or chapter highlights, all that kind of stuff. Every textbook has a different kind of a format for that kind of thing. So conclusion first, summary first, because then you see a synthesis of what you're about to read, and then the intro is going to give you a preview of what you're about to read, and then chapter highlights, chapter preview, thumb through the whole chapter, look at the headings, subheadings, subheadings, like things that stick out to you. So I would say spend anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes doing pre-reading, doing a mental warm-up, a reading warm-up exercise, if you will, and then begin your reading. Doing this, not only is it my personal experience and then the experience I've had from students who have shared this with me, but doing it this way will, in the long run, it saves you more time and you have increased comprehension. So it's if you've never read like this before, it's a new thing to try. It's a new thing to do. So it'll take some getting used to. If you typically just open up a textbook and you just start reading from the first page and read to the last page, you have to kind of unlearn that and start learning a new way of reading, which is more strategic. Conclusion first, then intro, preview, chapter highlights, all that kind of stuff that a lot of people tend to skip. That's the most important part. So once you do that, now you have a very good idea of what that chapter is about. And that is what will systematically help you to be more structured when it comes to doing skimming. So if you're just randomly skimming and you're skimming through the chapters because you don't feel like reading the page, that's not strategic. That's just random, spontaneous, and doesn't contribute to comprehension. But if you do strategic skimming, you're only able to do strategic skimming if you do a mental warm up where you're doing what I said. Now you know which sections you can kind of like skip over or read through really quickly, because you have a sort of a lens, right? You've done a mental warm up, a reading exercise. Now you have a mental sort of cognitive lens in your brain for what to expect in that chapter. So when you're reading certain things that are not super relevant to that, then you can read through them much more quickly. So you're more strategic with your reading. The whole point is that in the long run, you save time and you have increased comprehension. That's my advice for you. So that's our course, our schedule, our syllabus, and a lot of the other details I mentioned. Normally I have a different kind of approach to how for how I have a video on this kind of thing, but because of the nature of this semester and because it's like the first two semesters, um, I mean the first 2 weeks are in the for in-person classes. The first 2 weeks are online. Then we're going to go back in class. I'm just kind of expecting the unexpected. So hope you're all doing well. I really look forward to working with all of you, and I wish you all the best. Like I said, there'll be 2 assignments on Canvas for both my classes. Both sections will be two assignments on Canvas that you can start working on today if you really want to. Um, they shouldn't take too long, but I have instructions for each one, and that's that. I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye bye.